She said she was just catching up with friends. But I watched the video of her kissing him all night. I was washing a baking tray that still smelled like last night's lasagna when the video arrived. Unknown number, no text, just a gray bubble and a file named img7342.mov. I pressed play with a wet thumb and set the phone against the tap while the water hissed over my hands. It looped. 12 seconds, no sound. A shoulder-to-shoulder crowd under blue LEDs. A bar mirror reflecting a city of glassware. And in the center, Marta, my girlfriend, in her oversized cream sweater and the little gold hoop she never takes off, cupping a guy's jaw like it was familiar, like it had weight. Then leaning in once, twice. Then the rest of the clip was their foreheads pressed together, smiling at something only they could hear. I watched it 3 times before my brain agreed to call the face hers. The sweater was hers. The hoop was hers. The crooked ring finger that never straightens all the way after she slammed it in a car door last year was hers. The guy she was kissing wore a black and white checkered shirt rolled to the elbows, and a tattoo of 3 fine-line mountains peeked from beneath the cuff on his left wrist. I had never seen that wrist before in my kitchen. The timestamp floated in the top right, a tiny white ghost, 2:41. The date was last night. She had texted me at 7:12 p.m. Going to catch up with friends from uni. Don't wait up. I might grab a cab if it runs late. Love you. I let the water run until the tray stopped steaming. You can't hear betrayal in a silent clip. Not the apology or the excuse or even the music that might have made it feel like a mistake. You only see bodies do what they do. 12 seconds can be cut from anything. Maybe she was saying goodbye for the camera. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe this was AI. I turned off the tap and replayed the loop, pausing at the 3rd second where her hands climb his collar, where she does the little knee bend she always does when she's excited and hates how short she is. The bar had a chipped tile behind the taps, a missing corner like a bitten tooth. Above their heads, a neon sign read LUCKY in reverse in the mirror. I texted the number back. Who is this? No reply. It was a local code. The tray squealed as I slid it into the rack. I dried my hands on the towel she likes because it says, "Kale me maybe," in green embroidery. And I caught myself smoothing it like a nervous tick, like I was comforting fabric. Marta had stayed over at her friend Olya's last night to save on an Uber and have a slow breakfast like old times. She walked in around noon today with a bag of croissants, the sweet-baked smell leading her through the door. She kissed my cheek in the kitchen like nothing was misaligned. "Hi, you," she said, and moved my face to the side with the back of her hand to reach the kettle. "You look like you fought a dishwasher." "I did," I said, and my voice came out fine. "How was it?" "So good," she said. "Same chaos. Same stupid inside jokes from freshman year. I needed it." She glanced at my phone on the counter, then at the towel still in my hands. "What?" "Nothing," I said. "Did you end up at the ferry? I saw someone posted about a trivia night there." "God, no," she said. "We were at Lena's and then that wine bar near Olya's block." "Quiet. I'm too old for sticky floors." She poured water over tea leaves and frowned. "You're doing that thing where you think 5 things and say 0. I shrugged. "You don't spring a video like a jump scare if you want the truth. You set the table and see who sits where. Work's a mess. That's all." I took a croissant and set it on a plate. She ate hers standing up, scrolling through her phone with the casual speed of someone who can outrun any question. At 1:30, she went to shower. I stood by the bathroom door and listened for the little song she does when she's happy. 3 notes that never land anywhere. It came and went. I opened our group chat from last night. Me, her, and Olya. Olya had posted a boomerang of clinking glasses at 8:22 p.m. The caption, "Back like we never left." The location tag said, Vermilion. I clicked it. Vermilion was a natural wine bar with candles and a cheese board that cost as much as our electricity bill. The loops and bottles looked nothing like blue LEDs or a neon lucky sign. I went to Olya's public story. More candlelight. A shot of someone's rings and a red manicure. A blurry selfie in a bathroom with a plant wall. In the mirror of that bathroom photo, down near waist height, was an accidental catch, a wrist with that same mountain tattoo, cropped by a sleeve. My breath snagged. He held the phone for her? Or he walked by? Or 1,000 coincidences line up sometimes just to make you feel stupid. When Marta came out wrapped in a towel, she said, "We should go to my parents' Sunday." Mom asked if we could help with the garden. She smiled like nothing in the world had sides. She said you should bring your famous lasagna. The joke landed between us and didn't bounce. "Sure," I said. "Hey, random. Do you know a guy with a mountain tattoo?" The towel seemed to tighten around her as if it heard me. She blinked, then shook out her hair. "Mountain tattoo?" she said. "Like half the guys in that scene have triangles on their arms." Why? Just saw one in a story, I said. Cool design. I held her eyes long enough to feel her look away. She toed my ankle with her foot and said, "You're weird." But not like she thought I was cute weird. She took a nap. I went to the bedroom and did the thing I promised myself I would never do because I wanted to be the kind of person who never needed to. I looked through her photos. Not messages. God, I'm not built for reading the words people send when they think no one will archive them. But the camera roll. It was all aesthetic scraps. Dog on train. Pasta with basil. Her feet at the dentist. 2 screenshots of a playlist with the same song circled. Lucky, a video of her making faces at the front camera, then pouting, then laughing at herself. The timestamp of that last one was 1:08. The background light was blue. I put the phone down so carefully you'd think it could break from bad thoughts. Sashko, my coworker who once saved my project with a spreadsheet that predicted delays like weather, had shown me how to check metadata. I airdropped the anonymous clip to my laptop and opened it in the software he'd forced on me for life skills. The phone that recorded the video was an iPhone 12 Pro. The frame rate was standard. The location data was stripped, which made me think whoever sent it cared more about my trust than their privacy. Or they were Olya. Or they were someone who hated drama but hated lying more. I texted Sashko, "How hard is it to fake a timestamp in a bar video?" He called me immediately. He has this unfortunate optimism that assumes every question means you want to learn. Not that you are standing in your kitchen counting how many times a woman's hands can map the geography of a person you don't know. Faking timestamps is easy if you overlay, he said. But the light flicker often gives the cutaway. Send me the clip. I hesitated. Then I sent it. He was quiet for a while, then said, "Looks native. No cuts." "Sorry, man." She woke up, kissed the back of my neck as I answered emails, and asked what I wanted for dinner. "Not lasagna," I said, and she laughed and called me dramatic. At 6:50 p.m., her mom called. Marta went to the balcony and talked for 15 minutes about tomatoes and what kind of mulch is less ugly. I stared at the sliding door and the way it reflected me back as a double. After she hung up, she flopped on the couch with her head in my lap. "You're quiet," she said, looking up at me upside down. "Say something nice." "You look happy," I said. It wasn't a lie. Happy and tired. She reached for my hand and pressed my palm to her cheek. I almost believed it would be easier to accept a story that kept the house intact. Around 9, while she folded laundry, I opened our call log. Last night, between 2:30 and 3 a.m., there was an outgoing call of 9 minutes to Mom. It had a little moon icon because she keeps her parents on favorites. It bypasses Do Not Disturb. She told me this morning she'd had a mini panic at 2 and needed to hear her mother's voice because my chest was tight for no reason. She'd mocked herself for being dramatic and kissed my hand. I tapped the timestamp and took a screenshot because I didn't trust my own eyes anymore. Then I went back to the video and paused it on the 9th second, where the neon Lucky sits perfectly in the mirror, bright as a dare, and the minute marker on the clip reads 0239. Her hands are on his face. His hand slides to her waist. In the corner behind them, a bartender raises 2 shot glasses like a tiny ceremony. My stomach pitched even before I noticed the part that mattered. The phone he's checking with his free hand glows bright as a little planet. And in the reflection of the mirror, you can see his lock screen time if you squint, if you're the kind of person who has memorized the shape of numerals in that font. It reads 2:44. I looked back at the call log. The call to her mom started at 2:41 a.m. and ended at 2:50 a.m. I watched her mouth move on a loop while she was, apparently, on the phone with her mother. I didn't sleep much that night. Marta's breathing beside me was slow and even, her arm draped over my chest like it was claiming territory. But every time I closed my eyes, the blue light from that bar burned behind my eyelids. I kept thinking about how easy it would be to misremember things, to rewrite them just enough so they feel safe. I've done it myself with mistakes I didn't want to admit. But this wasn't a missed chore or forgetting to text back. This was something deliberate, and it was dressed up like a coincidence. In the morning, she was all sunshine and coffee, moving through the kitchen barefoot, humming something I couldn't place. She asked if I'd grab oat milk from the store on my way home from work. I said sure. She kissed me twice before leaving for her shift, her perfume trailing after her. It should have felt normal. At work, I opened the anonymous message thread again, staring at that lone clip, half hoping they'd send more context, half dreading it. Nothing new, just seen under my question from the day before. Sashko swung by my desk mid-morning with a mug of tea, and that look he gets when he's trying to be careful. "You want me to dig on that number?" he asked quietly. I nodded. He didn't press for details. He's the kind of friend who knows when not to talk. By lunch, he'd forwarded me a note. Prepaid SIM, cash purchase, no ID. Could be anyone. That didn't narrow anything down, but the fact that someone had gone that far to hide themselves made my neck prickle. If it was Olya, why not just tell me? Unless she wanted to keep plausible deniability with Marta. I started collecting things, not in a folder labeled evidence, but in a notes app file with a random grocery list as the title. Screenshots of timestamps, the bar's location on Google Maps, Olya's bathroom selfie with the tattoo in the corner, the 2 playlist screenshots from Marta's camera roll, both with Lucky circled. I even added a bank notification from my own phone. 2:47 a.m., $26.50 at a bar called Lucky's. It matched the tile and neon in the clip. Marta doesn't carry cash. When I got home, she was curled up on the couch with her laptop, a blanket over her legs. I ordered Thai, she said, smiling. You looked wrecked last night, so I figured comfort food. I sat beside her, trying to match her energy. Thanks. What did you get? She listed the dishes, tossing in my favorite without me asking. It was the kind of thoughtful detail that used to make me feel safe. Now it just felt strategic, like keeping a door open so I wouldn't check the locks. Midway through dinner, my phone buzzed. Olya. I excused myself to the kitchen to take it. Hey, I said. She sounded a little off. Careful. Just checking if you guys are still good for Lena's birthday next week. Yeah, I said. Marta's excited. There was a pause. Then she added, in a quieter tone. Good. Just maybe skip the after party this time. What after party? Another pause. Never mind. Forget I said anything. See you next week. She hung up before I could ask more. When I came back to the couch, Marta looked up. Everything okay? Olya, I said. Just about Lena's birthday. She nodded and went back to her laptop. I couldn't tell if she already knew what Olya had hinted at, or if she was just too comfortable to care. That night, I opened the clip again. I told myself it was to check the flicker rate like Sashko had mentioned. But really, I was watching for the parts of her body language that were undeniably hers. The way she shifts her weight onto one hip when she's laughing. The quick tuck of hair behind her ear before leaning in. None of that is friendly habit. It's intimacy muscle memory. I didn't confront her yet. Instead, I tested small things. The next morning, I asked casually, Do you ever get the feeling someone's not telling you the whole story? She smirked and said, All the time. That's life. I asked if she'd ever lie to protect someone's feelings. Of course, she said, like it was obvious. The bank charge sat in my notes like a splinter. The geotag discrepancy felt like another. And Olya's odd little warning. It didn't sound like someone protecting Marta, but like someone protecting me. 3 nights later, the second video came. Same number, same lack of explanation. This one was longer, 22 seconds, filmed from closer up, different angle. Marta and the same guy were outside, leaning against the brick wall of a bar I didn't recognize, laughing in a way that bent them toward each other. The streetlight above them caught the edge of his jaw, her cheekbone, the glint of that hoop earring. And then he kissed her like they were alone, and she kissed him back like she'd been waiting for it all night. The timestamp read 3 weeks earlier. My throat went dry. This wasn't some once-off mistake after too much wine. This was a pattern. The first video had been a breadcrumb. This was the map. I saved it to the same grocery list note and sat in the dark, the room humming with the sound of the fridge, wondering which was worse, that she'd been lying so easily, or that I'd been letting her. The next morning, I sat across from her at breakfast, watching her scroll through her phone between bites of toast. I wanted to slam the second video down on the table like a trump card, watch her face fracture under the weight of it. But I didn't. Not yet. Confronting her without knowing which version of her I was going to get felt like walking into a storm without checking the wind. Instead, I asked, You ever hear of a place called The Lantern? It was the name on the awning in the second clip, just visible above their heads. She glanced up. Oh, yeah. I think it's near Marina. Why? Someone mentioned it at work, I said. Sounded nice. It's fine, she shrugged. Bit of a dive, honestly. Not my scene. She buttered another slice like she hadn't just lied to my face about standing under its streetlight with her mouth on someone else's. That was the moment I knew she wasn't going to give me the truth willingly. I'd have to pull it out, thread by thread. At work, I showed Sashko the second clip. He swore under his breath, then asked, You want me to help you build a timeline? Yes, I said before I could overthink it. We sat in the empty conference room over lunch, my laptop open between us. He laid it out like a project plan. Both videos, dates, times, her stated locations, bank charges, story posts. When it was all lined up, the holes were impossible to ignore. She hadn't just shaded the truth. She'd painted entire days over in a different color. That night, after dinner, I decided to test the waters. I pulled a still frame from the first clip, the one where she's smiling but their faces aren't touching, and showed it to her on my phone. This you? I asked lightly. She leaned in, squinting. Yeah? Where'd you get that? Someone sent it, I said. She laughed, the sound sharp and bright. Oh my God, that's Dan. We went to school together. He was telling me some stupid story and I must have leaned in. You're really out here saving screenshots? It looks close, I said. Are you serious right now? Her tone shifted, heat creeping in. You've been in some mood lately, but this is next level. I'm allowed to hug an old friend without an interrogation. I didn't say, no, she cut in. This is what you do. You twist things. You make it about your paranoia so you don't have to admit you're the controlling one. Darvo in full bloom. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. She was so smooth about it, like she'd practiced. I let it drop in the moment, but my chest felt like it was wrapped in wire. Later, in bed, she curled up against me like she'd won something. I lay there staring at the ceiling, counting the beats between her breaths. The following afternoon, Olya called again. We still good for Lena's? She asked. Sure, I said. Hey, did you send me something last week? Her silence was sharp. Then, I don't know what you mean. You do, I said quietly. A sigh. Look, I didn't want to be in the middle. But if you've got it, just be careful how you play it. Before I could press, she said she had to go. That evening, Marta was in the shower when my phone buzzed. Same anonymous number. My stomach nodded. But this time it wasn't a video. It was a single sentence. You deserve to know it wasn't just those nights. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in my hand, steam curling from the bathroom door, and realized I was done waiting for her to trip over her own story. The ground under us wasn't shaky. It was gone. The only question left was how to get off it without her pulling me down too. I spent the next 2 days in quiet preparation, the way you might pack for a trip you haven't told anyone about. I cleared my half of the closet into an old duffel while she was at work, stashing it in the trunk of my car. I pulled my passport and important documents from the drawer we shared, slipped them into a folder, and left a decoy stack in their place. I changed the passwords on my accounts, email, banking, even Netflix. Not because she'd ever touched them before, but because I no longer trusted that the before version of her mattered. I told Sashko everything. He didn't try to talk me out of it. He just asked if I wanted help backing up the data from my phone. You're going to want the originals, he said. People lie. Files don't. On Thursday evening, we had dinner with her parents. They were warm as always. Her dad pouring me a beer before I even sat down. Her mom asking about my workload. I answered, polite and steady. But when her mom casually mentioned how happy Marta had been lately, I caught her eyes and said, she's complicated. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't a plea. It was just a seed, left there to grow if it needed to. That night, I figured out the anonymous sender. Olya. It wasn't a dramatic reveal, just a slip. I'd texted her a thank you without naming anything specific, and she replied, I didn't want you to keep thinking you were crazy. No one else had used that word with me. She told me she'd found out about Dan because she'd been seeing him casually herself. And one night, leaving Lucky's early, she saw him and Marta together. She'd filmed the first clip herself. The second came from a friend who'd been at the Lantern weeks earlier. Why tell me at all? I asked. Because I know what it feels like to have someone rewrite reality in your face, she said. I thought maybe if you saw it, you'd leave before she made you believe you deserved it. Her voice was tight, and I could tell this wasn't just about me. By Friday, I had everything lined up. The videos, the timestamps, the bank charges, the mismatched geotags, the screenshots from her camera roll. My plan was simple. Tell her it's over, hand her a written breakdown so she couldn't twist my words later, and walk out. No fight, no scene. That night, I asked her if we could talk. She sat on the couch, legs tucked under her, looking like the girl I'd first met. Open face, easy smile. Sure, she said. I told her I wanted an honest conversation. No yelling, no walking away. She agreed immediately, which I took as a sign she thought she could steer it. I know about Lucky's, I said. I know about the Lantern. I know about Dan. Her expression didn't crumble, it hardened. You've been spying on me, she said, voice low and dangerous. I've been paying attention, I said. There's a difference. She shook her head. You've built a whole fantasy because you're insecure. You twist photos, I cut her off by sliding my laptop across the coffee table. The first video looped, then the second. Then the call log with the matching timestamp. Her eyes darted, but she didn't speak. This isn't a debate, I said. I'm leaving. My things are already gone. She stood abruptly, hands on her hips. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. I stood too. Maybe. But at least it's my mistake to make. I walked past her to the door. She didn't follow. As I closed it behind me, I felt the strangest mix of grief and relief, like stepping off a sinking boat and realizing you've been treading water for months without noticing. 2 days later, she showed up at my new place. I'd taken a short-term rental, a one-bedroom with a mismatched couch and a view of a brick wall, because it was available immediately and came furnished. I heard the knock before I saw her through the peephole, holding a paper bag and wearing the hoodie I'd once called my favorite. "I just want to talk," she said when I cracked the door. 5 minutes, I let her in. Not because I wanted to hear her out, but because I didn't want her yelling in the hallway. She set the bag on the counter, my favorite coffee beans, and took in the apartment like she was memorizing it for later ammunition. "You didn't have to disappear like that," she said. "You could have given me a chance to explain." I leaned against the counter. "Explain what? That it was all friendly? That timestamps are wrong? That my eyes are broken?" She rolled her eyes. "God, you love playing the martyr. It wasn't what you think. Dan and I don't care," I said, cutting her off. "It's not my job to make your side of the story feel better." She crossed her arms. "So you're just going to throw away years over, what, a couple of drinks with a friend?" "Over lies," I said. "Over the fact that I had to get the truth from someone who wasn't you." Her jaw tightened. "Who? Was it Olya?" "I swear to God, don't," I said sharply. "She didn't do anything to you that you didn't do to yourself." For a moment, her face softened, like she might actually drop the act. But then it shifted, and she went for the kill. "You're never going to find someone who puts up with you like I did." I smiled, small and tired. "That's the point." I walked her to the door. She stopped in the frame like she had one last play. "You think you're better than me? You think leaving makes you the good guy? Watch how fast people figure out who you really are." She left before I could answer. That night, I got a text from my manager asking if everything was okay. Apparently, an anonymous email had been sent to HR claiming I'd been inappropriately involved with a coworker. The details were thin, but the tone was sharp enough to warrant a meeting. When I got to HR the next morning, Sashko was already there, looking both annoyed and amused. "They called me in to confirm I'd seen something," he said. "I told them the only thing I'd seen was you staying late to fix my mistakes." The HR rep showed me the email. The phrasing was familiar, little barbs I'd heard from Marta before. But the thing about lies is they unravel fast under real light. They pulled the security logs for the dates mentioned in the email. The cameras told a story of me working alone, leaving with Sashko, nothing remotely scandalous. The whole investigation died in under a day. Sashko clapped me on the shoulder as we left. "If that's her version of revenge," he said, "she's already lost." I wanted to feel victorious, but mostly, I just felt done. Done with games, with second-guessing, with watching my back in a relationship that should have been my safe place. I went home, made coffee from the beans she'd brought, and drank it alone in the quiet. It tasted like closure. A week later, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Hope you're happy. You ruined my life." No name, but I didn't need one. I stared at it for a moment, then set the phone face down on the table. There was a time when a message like that would have gutted me, would have sent me chasing some imagined obligation to make things right. Now it just felt like an echo from a place I'd already left. I'd settled into a rhythm in the new apartment. Mornings were quiet. No competing for the bathroom, no sidestepping someone else's schedule. I cooked simple meals, kept the windows open, let the city noise fill the space that used to hold arguments disguised as conversations. I started running again, just a couple of miles in the evenings, letting the motion bleed the static from my head. Through mutual friends, I heard bits about her. She'd stopped showing up to certain group events. Dan had vanished from her orbit. Apparently, he'd been seeing someone else the whole time. Olya told me, carefully, that Marta had been trying to clarify her version of events with anyone who would listen. But the videos had already made the rounds in our extended circle. People believed what they saw more than what they heard. One night, Olya and I ended up at the same small gathering. She pulled me aside to say she was sorry it had all blown up like it did. I told her she didn't owe me an apology. "If anything," I said, "you just sped up something that was already on its way down." She smiled faintly. "You're handling this better than I would." "It's not about handling," I said. "It's about not letting it rot everything else." We didn't linger together, didn't want to feed rumors, but when she left, she squeezed my shoulder in passing. It was the kind of quiet acknowledgement that means more than speeches. A month after I'd walked out, I went to a cafe we used to frequent. The barista remembered my order, asked where I'd been. I told him I'd just been busy, and it was almost true. I sat by the window with my coffee, watching people drift by, and realized I wasn't thinking about her. Not wondering what she was doing, who she was with, what new narrative she was spinning. She'd become background noise. That was the real closure. Not the confrontation, not the packed bag, not even the HR email unraveling. It was the moment she stopped living rent-free in my head. Love without trust, I thought, is like a video with the sound turned off. You can watch the shapes and guess the story, but you'll never know the truth. And sometimes, You're better off hitting stop, standing up, and walking away before you memorize the wrong version forever.